All right, people, so this weekend we have a heavyweight title fight, and I say heavyweight title fight somewhat sarcastically in case you can't tell, and I use that heavyweight title fight with inverted commas because this weekend Kubrat Pulev is defending his regular WBA heavyweight title against Morak Asia, former unified cruiserweight champion. The fight itself, I'm kind of like, I've never really looked forward to a Kubrat Pulev fight, truth be told, and I don't think many other people have. In terms of Kasiev, he was fun at cruiserweight, real fun, real good. Till he ran into Usyk, obviously, and he's just been there at heavyweight. Lost to Oleksandr 2 years ago. I mean, Oleksandr is no great shake, so to be losing to him, and he was hurt in that round, that fight. I think it was round 6. It's not ideal. But we're not here to talk about that fight. We'll do a review of it, of course. It's on tomorrow, so we'll watch it tomorrow even, do a review of it. It's not the talking point. The talking point is, well, there's a few things. There's a lot of boxing guys over there. There's the likes of Ben Whittaker, Conor Benn, Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora is over there. As too is Deontay Wilder. Now, Deontay Wilder, his name is somewhat at the forefront of many people's lips. Also, he did a face-off with Derek Chisora, and that definitely gained some traction because obviously people are talking about Derek Chisora. He was meant to be having his 50th fight this weekend. Well, meant to be against Dylan White, all that. We thought it was a slam dunk. We thought it was a done deal. Evidently, that wasn't the case. We don't know what the situation is with Derek Chisora. We know he's going to be out most likely next year for Fight 50. Against whom? We don't know. He did a little tease with that face-off with Deontay Wilder. And quite frankly, I would much rather see Derek Chisora versus Deontay Wilder as a 50th and final fight for Derek Chisora than I would the potential of Wilder facing Oleksandr Usyk. I would much rather see him face Derek Chisora. He did a face-off with Chisora. You may remember, for those who don't know, I think it was 2013. I think it was after Deontay Wilder beat that, what was his name, Calvin Price guy. Knocked him out in a couple of rounds. The big, huge, he was about 6'6", 6'7". He was probably equal in terms of just height to Wilder. That's one of his highlight reel knockouts. He was, I'm trying to think, right? He was definitely penciled in or was reported to be facing Derek Chisora way back then. Never happened, obviously. Wilder carried on doing his own thing. Took him another 2 years before he ended up fighting someone, being Bermain Stavern. And Chisora, we already know, did his own thing. At this point now, for a 50th and final fight for Chisora, I take it. It's a sellable fight. I'm sure Frank Warren will be looking and saying, are those Usyk talks really going on? Because that's a more fight that's reasonable. And to be honest with you, I'd make Chisora a firm favourite over Deontay Wilder. Prime for prime, I would have always taken Wilder. I think Chisora's too open, and yeah, he got a good chin, but man, Wilder in his prime, damn, we don't have that now. And quite frankly, I think Wilder wouldn't be interested in a Chisora fight at this stage, because I think Wilder knows well enough. I think deep down he does know that there's only so much, if anything, left in the tank, and if he's going to go out, he wants to go out getting extremely well paid. That then goes to, or we then go to a TalkSport interview. Simon Jordan, Tim White, and Ade, obviously. They interviewed Deontay Wilder today. He's in, I believe he's in Dubai, is where the fight's taking place. And it was an interesting listen. He certainly, Deontay Wilder, sounds in a much better place mentally. Because 2 years ago, in the run-up to the day of reckoning, he didn't sound like everything was going well. He really didn't look good in the run-up, in just every aspect, in the run-up to that Matchroom versus Queensberry show. He literally looked like a beaten man. He really did. He looked like a man who was just beaten. And then, obviously he went through, obviously a messy breakup, some other personal things, which he kind of alluded to in this interview that, in his personal life in the past, over the last year or so, things really haven't been good. But he does, by his voice, you can tell he's turned a bit of a corner. You can tell that things are going a little bit better. And me and Ade, we did Ade and G-Man today, we both said that there was moments in that interview he gave where you could hear glimpses of the old Bronze Bomber. He might still be there. He might not be there to the extent he was 6 years ago. But there is still those little signs of life there in Deontay Wilder. There is life in him, maybe even in small doses, but there is still something there. He then goes on to talk about Oleksandr Usyk because, well, Oleksandr Usyk, he vacated his WBO title. obviously elevated Fabio Wardley, the champion. He then gave an interview with Boxing King Media where he basically said that he wasn't interested in fighting Fabio Wardley. He would have been more interested if Parker had won, which I kind of thought was like, I don't really understand that, but okay. He then mentioned Wilder as a potential opponent, actually as the opponent who he pretty much wanted to face next. And at that point, you're kind of like, no. And I'm still saying, no, I don't want to see that fight. But Wilder did say that talks were happening. Talks were ongoing. To what extent, we don't know. It could mean that his people have just reached out to Usyk's people or vice versa, and it could just be that. But he did, I don't want to say he sounded confident that the fight would happen. He did talk about, some things get talked about, this happens, and then it doesn't, and stuff like that with many fights. But I've got a funny feeling and a sneaky feeling that this fight may actually happen. Again, I've no privy information, anything like that, I don't know. But given the fact that Wilder would jump at the opportunity for a world title fight, the WBC in particular will facilitate that. They'll 100% be like, yep, he was our champion in the past. Wouldn't shock me if they made him mandatory. Seriously, it wouldn't shock me what the WBC would do. But it wouldn't shock me if this fight happened. It really wouldn't. The fight itself, look, I've given my 2 cents on it. I've said it, I don't want to see this fight. Oleksandr Usyk, for me, right, if the ambition is really to, I don't want to say, like, he's done undisputed twice at heavyweight. If the ambition is to make money, I mean, like, you've made a lot. How much can you really need to make? And right now, there's people like a Moses Atelma, a Fabio Wardley. There's young up-and-coming heavyweights who I think you'll beat. I think that him against Wardley is like taking candy from a baby. I think he'd absolutely beat Fabio Wardley black and blue. Don't even think it'd be competitive. But I don't know that. I'd like to see the fight. With Wilder, it's like, okay, you're going from a young, hungry challenger who I think you'd beaten of to let's be real, faded champion. I don't want to see that. Especially a guy who's not earned his shot. People saying, and I'm one of them, that I don't want to see Tyson Fury get a trilogy fight with Oleksandr Usyk because he hasn't earned it, and he hasn't. But goddamn, 2 defeats to Oleksandr Usyk is better than, 1 win in his last, 4 fights? Knocked out badly in one of them? It's just, or at least 1 win in his last 3 fights. It's just, nah, man. So, yeah, Wilder kind of confirmed that, yeah, the talks are ongoing, but for me, I just don't see the appeal. I know at one stage they referred to, and I think I've even heard people recently say, the 4 kings, AJ, Fury, Wilder, and Usyk. And obviously Usyk has beaten 2 of them. He hasn't beaten Wilder. And when he came into the heavyweight division back in 2019, it was Wilder, it was Fury, it was AJ. Well, he's beaten 2 of them twice. Wilder is the last to fall. But the problem is he's already fallen long ago. He fell to Fury. He fell to Parker. He fell badly to Zhilei Zhang. He looked terrible against Terrell Herndon. Yes, he will fall against Oleksandr Usyk, and very, very quickly. And I just don't want to see that. Like, if I'm going to see Usyk again, I want to see him in a fight that's competitive. This won't be competitive. If it happens, it won't be. It's just, I'm telling you now, this fight will be many things, none of them good. It won't be competitive. So I would like to see, if this is what Usyk is going to go down, the road is going to go down, I just think you should call it a day. Because at the end of the day, what does he have to prove? It's nothing. He's 3-time undisputed, greatest cruiserweight of all time, 2-time undisputed heavyweight champion. What would, like, I don't understand. I don't get it. I really don't. So those are my thoughts on this whole situation. Wilder saying that talks are ongoing. He did do a face-off with Chisora. I would much rather see that. I think it's a more competitive fight. And I'd be making Chisora favourite as well in that fight. But still, it's more competitive than an Usyk fight. Because at least with Chisora, he's not at his peak. Neither is Usyk. But he's still way more in the tank than Chisora. He's way better than Chisora. He'd light Deontay Wilder up. It would just be lamb to the slaughter. It wouldn't be fun. It really wouldn't. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment section below. I hope, as always, you enjoyed the video. If you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. And until next time, peace.